We're in, we're on, and I love the way that my video counter starts at 5 seconds instead of 0. But anyway, that's the way it goes. It's GTV, it's our original, it's our lost the ability to speak. It's our educational perspectives Native Speakers Academy blog. We cover different issues related to society, school, people, education, and anything else that might be interesting. I'm not really very well prepared for today's blog because I don't have access to any information outside of the office, so I can only do things when I'm in the office, so I don't have time to do any deeper research on topics, so I'm going to just wing it a bit and we'll see where it goes. I have a few articles that I've picked up from the internet today, so we'll start with those and we'll see where it all leads to. See if I can actually pronounce words correctly today. Coffee, as they say. Or as my son says, coffee. First story today. Students turn up for dead professor's class. I picked this story because it shows you just how much the education system truly cares about what's happening there. It cares so much that they weren't able to inform the students and other teachers about the death of one of the professors, and students were sitting in class waiting for him to turn up, and obviously he didn't because he was dead. Story says, he's listed as an active professor on the University of Pennsylvania's website, but students in his class discovered otherwise. Last Tuesday, students enrolled in Dr. Henry Teuni's political science class, citizenship and democratic development. Citizenship, I wonder what that teaches. They were shocked when they heard why he couldn't teach them. According to the university's newspaper, students arrived for the class that was scheduled to start at 1:30 p.m. Almost an hour later, they received an email from the department informing them the professor had died 5 months ago. Well, what do you expect in a system where you're paying people to do things they don't actually want to be there from their own volition? We are so sorry for this last-minute cancellation. With Dr. Henry Teuni's passing, this course should have been cancelled over the summer, and it was an oversight. An oversight! An oversight! Wonderful. Said the email from the political science department. We were just sitting there for about half an hour and a bit concerned because the professor hadn't posted a syllabus. People were worried because there were assignments due that we didn't know about. We figured that he was just late, said one student. What do you expect? There you go. You're just a number in the system, and they don't really care about you when you pass on. And you're replaceable anyway. Somebody else will jump into your shoes and take over, no doubt. Moving on. Scientists successfully implant chip that controls the brain, allowing thoughts, memory, and behavior to be transferred from one brain to another. Beep, beep, beep. This is where your brain should go red alert, because not that I'm against technology, I'm not, because I use a lot of it and it helps me in my daily life. And if you can program the washing machine to do something, or as my students were telling me, they have this little automatic vacuum cleaner that cleans the floor for them at home. These things that make everyday living perhaps a little bit easier are super, but don't mess with my brain. man, as I would say. The mind is special because the mind has no firewalls. In fact, there's a wonderful article entitled that somewhere on the internet. I'll have a look at it and see if I can post it up. The mind has no firewalls, about how it's very difficult to protect the human brain from outside influences, and so it can be perhaps molded and shaped. Scientists working at the University of Southern California, home of the Department of Homeland Security's National Center for Risk and Economic Analysis of Terrorism Events. The National Center for Risk and Economic Analysis of Terrorism Events. It just blows the mind. I wonder what they really do there. The Center for Risk. What is risk? Everything is risk. The analysis of everything, essentially. They have created an artificial memory system that allows thoughts, memories, and learned behavior to be transferred from one brain to another. So, in effect, in the future, we won't need any humans. We'll just have these stillborn things that we inject with various viruses to cause certain growth patterns, and a little chip to stick in the back of the head. And most everybody will love it. I love it. In a scene right out of a George Orwell novel, a team of scientists working in the fields of neural engineering and biomimetic microelectronic systems have successfully created a chip that controls the brain and can be used as a storage device for long-term memories. In studies, the scientists have been able to record, download, and transfer memories into other hosts with the same chip implanted. So they've already used it. So it already exists. So far down the rabbit hole, it's unbelievable. The advancement of technology brings the world one step closer to a global police state and the reality of absolute mind control. Well said, whoever wrote this article. More terrifying is the potential for implementation of what was only a science fiction fantasy, the thought police, where the government reads people's memories and thoughts and then rehabilitates them through torture before they even ever commit a crime. Yes, it does come out of George Orwell's 1984. It also comes out of Philip K. Dick's science fiction, where I think he wrote the original Minority Report, or the book that Minority Report, the film, was based on, and he even had visits from government officials who wanted to know how he knew what he knew about what was planned in the future, and he just told them that it was logical, basically. You have control and you want more control. Where else are you going to go? We already preemptively invade nations and torture terrorist suspects with absolutely no due process of law. So the idea of preemptively torturing a terrorist suspect beforehand to prevent them from committing an act of terrorism in the future isn't really that far-fetched of an idea. Innocent until proven guilty has now been completely reversed. We are all guilty until we can prove that we are not going to do anything. And how can we prove that something doesn't exist? You can't. Perhaps a less sensational example than those I just depicted, says the article. Actually, it just reminds me of the pre-crime arrests before the royal wedding in Britain, where the police went around the country and arrested people who didn't agree with the idea of the wedding. And then you have people who support climate change, global warming, saying that those who deny its existence should be arrested and put in prison as well. Nice people, really nice people, good people to have as friends. Wonderful, wonderful, top of the world. Yeah. Anyway, the article finishes by saying that a smart planet isn't really that smart after all. Quite right, too. Moving on. Oh yeah, just think about the implications of the last article in terms of learning. We won't need schools at all. You won't need to learn anything at all because you'll know it all. No, none of those growing experiences and pains of those teenage years. You just become mindless, really. Education. School, it's way more boring than when you were there. New studies show that the disappearance of art, music, and even breaks is having a devastating effect on kids. No shit, Sherlock. But that's all part of the big plan, isn't it? 49 million or so American children have returned to public school classrooms that are, according to many critics, ever more boring. Preparation for increasingly high-stakes tests has reduced time for social studies and science. It's probably reduced conversations. It's probably reduced free time out of school, extracurricular activities, increased stress. Sorry, that was an ad-lib. Anyway. The austerity state and federal budgets are decimating already hobbled music, art, library, and physical education budgets. Just wait until the libraries disappear, or get reduced to places where they only have a few pictures on the wall, or it sort of becomes something like a museum, really. When reading and maths count and nothing else does, then less time and resources are devoted on non-tested subjects like the arts, science. Non-tested subjects. I remember having tests in those subjects. Arts, science, history, civics, and so on. Yes, it's the reward-based system, giving students a gold star or an extra break, or letting them have trips, or uh, or any kind of credit um, that guides the education, essentially prevents it from being free in a true sense. And I'm not against people wanting to take tests to see for themselves what they know, but external testing has proven by some of the work of Alfie Kohn and his supporters show that there is so little positive effect, in fact very often a negative effect there. Supporters of the self-described education reform movement counter that evaluating teachers based on another evaluating teachers as well as students. We saw student evaluations caused the student levels to fall, and now they're going to evaluate teachers in the same way. It's basically educational suicide. Where are we? A 2007 Center on Education Policy study found that 44% of elementary schools had decreased instructional time spent on non-tested subjects. This was the implementation of the No Child Left Behind policy. Now, most policies actually do the opposite of what they state they want to do, so No Child Left Behind essentially means leaving everybody behind at home. Well, it would be great if they left them at home. They'd be less tortured by the prison school system that they're forced to go through. And it goes on and on and on, and I'll post up these links. I also found one interesting article on silence in the classroom and how teachers fear it. But maybe we'll get to that another day. Those are my thoughts on education for today. I'll post up links, as I said. Thank you very much. Take care.